Welcome to the Whiskey, Jazz, and Leadership Podcast. Subscribe now so you don't miss a drop of straight talk you can't get anywhere else. We discuss the whiskeys to drink, music to listen to, and what it really takes to be an effective leader. I'm your host, Galen Bingham, the leadership strategist. Tonight's guest, Emmy Award-winning actor and head of school at Proctor Academy in Andover, New Hampshire, Brian Thomas. Hey, what you drinking? Now, your journey really brings to mind this idea of 4 levels of leadership. And I think this is McKinsey work. I don't even know who created it. I just want to go on record by saying this is not me. This is not Galen Bingham. But the 4 levels of leadership, that first one being where you are the individual contributor. You're the one making it happen, right? And you're actually learning. And I often like to describe this one as me in the kitchen with my grandma. And my grandma is saying, this is baking soda. This is baking powder. Don't mix up the two, right? And then the next level is where you are a competent contributor. So you're an independent contributor. You can do things on your own. You move past learning. You can do things on your own. But really, that's about it. And then you move into this level where you are delivering results through other people, where it's your job to make sure that other people are trained, that they're ready, that they're able to do things that's needed to get results. But then you've got this 4th level where you are designing and overseeing the system or an organization with processes that will allow for others to deliver results through other people and for everything else to work. And I have just really, again, I consider you to be as close to someone who has excelled at all of those levels. I can't think of anything more in need of your independent contribution than acting, because at the end of the day, you've got to learn the script. You've got to learn your craft. You've got to know what to do, because when they say action, you're the one, the one on the screen, right? And then you move into teaching, where you are literally teaching people in the classroom how to do specific things the right way. And now you're at a point where you're still teaching, but you're really more focused on the entire organization, the entire school, that's going to allow your teachers and your other administrators to be successful in creating the future leaders. Have you thought about your progress through those different levels, and how has that played a role in kind of how you're seeing the world?
I think a lot about education, because it's the thing that most of us think we really know a lot about, because we've all gone to school and we've all been, quote unquote, educated. We've seen what teachers do, what they don't do, what principals do, what they don't do, what superintendents do. But there is a design to it. There's an element of design, and even within the elements of teaching that you mentioned, that second element. There are 2 Latin definitions of the root education. It's educare and educare. One means to kind of fill up like a bucket, and the other one means to sort of set free or ignite, right? And you see that tension within our educational system, right? People, here's the knowledge, you come get it, it's in my head, you go for it. But to ignite it, to lead out, educare, that to me is what we do. We're leading out, we're igniting. Plutarch says, mind is not a pail to be filled, it's a flame to be lit. We are in the fire lighting business, right? And our job really in that second thing is to ignite people so that they're so passionate and they're looking for their why. And that's where we leaders really do come in terms of delivering success, really pointing to what the why is, Simon Sinek and all of that. But even more so, then how do you design an intelligent system that can then really begin to refine and think for itself? That's sort of the flaw. Since 1983, there has been a lot of stuff thrown at public education and education in general about testing and accountability that has led to stagnant, if not declining returns, right? And so whose fault is it? Is it parents' fault? Is it teachers' fault? Is it sort of society's fault? The iPhone's fault?
It's
It
TikTok.
is,
It's TikTok.
yeah, TikTok. But it's processes, right? It is, if we can design an intelligent system where I can get kids off of TikTok. When I send kids out a mountain classroom and they're by themselves in Pinnacles, or the in Utah or the Everglades, there's no cell service there, right? They're camping out, they're doing solo stuff. They are really thinking like, what am I going to do with the rest of my life?
Mm.
Right? That to me that's leading out, that's designing a system that's a smart system that will, for those builders, begin to make them more accountable to themselves and to other people. I saw one of those kids that we educated at a gathering on Nantucket just the other day. And I was like around, like I was meeting some of the current students who were out there, and everybody was really excited to be together. And there was this group of a very diverse group of folks, age-wise, from maybe late teens to early mid-30s. And I come in, I meet this one kid, and I'm like, hey, well, what's your name? He gives me his name. And I said, what are you up to? He's like, I'm in school right now, but this is what I do for the summer. Like, oh, you're shucking oysters? Like, well, I'm actually a chef. Like, you're a chef? Yeah, this is my crew. They hired me to do this, to host this party. Dude had like hors d'oeuvres, 5-course meal. They were, it was off the hook, some of the best food that I've had. And Nantucket people know food, right? And I was just blown away that this 22, 23-year-old young man had gone into business over the summer to fill a need, hiring his buddies, stayed till the end of the night. Like, sorry, I would love to come in and join you for a glass of wine. He was 23. Love to come and join you for a glass of wine, but I have to clean up right now and think about my next gig. And there was another CEO of a really large Fortune 500 company saying, because the dude also free dives, he goes down to 80 to 90 feet. He brings up his own tuna off the coast of Massachusetts. The dude was really impressive, and he was educated at my school, right? And he's not finished yet with college. In my estimation, like, why are you even going to college? Like, you should be just starting a business right now, just because you have a lot of what it takes to be in industry. And I think people will begin to get the idea that the certification may be coding and maybe doing project management work, but not necessarily going right away on to college. And I know that's heretical, but spend your money in high schools. You did this with your own lovely, lovely daughter. She's brilliant, right? And she's getting the most out of it right now. But there's some kids that struggle, right? And struggle hard. Spend the money now, get them educated now, have experiences that will last them a lifetime now.
Yeah. I love that. And you are reminding me of a quote from one of my favorite, actually, the first business book that I ever bought with my own money was How to Swim with Sharks Without Getting Eaten Alive by Harvey Mackay. And when I had an opportunity to stop talking about writing a book and actually do it for myself, I actually ran into someone who knew Harvey Mackay. And it was just so amazing just to get a photograph of Harvey Mackay holding my book. And I was getting ready to launch a rewrite of it, a redesign of it. He wrote a blurb for my book. So that means everything for me. But one of the things that Harvey Mackay said is, he says, a mediocre person tells, a good person explains, a superior person demonstrates, a great person inspires others to see for themselves. And that is one of the things that really comes to mind when I not only hear your story, but think about how you have impacted my daughter. We've been here for 35 minutes, and I think this is enough time for me to start talking about how amazing my daughter is.
Yeah, she is.
And one of the things that you did, and I don't even know if you appreciated the impact of doing this, but we were at home and watching television. I don't watch a whole lot of television. I just don't. Usually when I'm watching television, it's because I want to be with my family and my family's watching television.
Mhm.
And one of my favorite shows when I was growing up was a different world.
Mhm.
And we're sitting there with a different world on, and she just screeches, "That's Brian Thomas right there." And I wasn't paying attention. So we had to figure out how do we go back and capture that moment. And it was you with Charlene Brown or Kimberly Reese. And you seize the opportunity to share with her how, here's someone who has done amazing things in this field,
Mhm.
but didn't allow that field to define the totality of what they were there to do.
Right.
And now they're doing amazing things. At the time, you were the assistant head of school for one of the top, if not the top, preparatory schools here in St. Louis, Missouri, and at the top of that game. And
Mhm.
and now you're head of school for Proctor. It's like, where does this inability to allow yourself to be boxed into one definition, where does that inability come from?
That's a really great question, Galen, because I think I'm always chafing against stereotype,
Mm.
right? Around the time I did A Different World, and I was waiting. I actually got called from Ed Zwick, who directed Glory, and he said, I don't have a big part for you, but I have a part. If you'd come down to Savannah, pay your way, I'd put you in the film. And I was like, this is what I studied in college, the Civil War, American history. And I said, I need to do my due diligence and wait on this offer from A Different World to go to series, meaning I was going to be a regular on the show, which never came. My brother sat next to Debbie Allen and said, well, of course we wanted him, but we thought he was doing something else. And I'm like, I'm not sure. I was sitting at home by the phone waiting for you, honey. But I didn't wait. So I did another series. I did 227 around then. I did this show called Mancuso FBI, mostly like guest lead work. So leading to a series regular role or being on a television series. And I would look around even at my co-stars on A Different World and go like, I wonder what their lives are going to be like in 10 years or
Mm.
15 years or 20 years. That would be in my head. I wonder what their lives are going to be like. And I did a really important guest stint on a show called Mancuso FBI. I played this young but sensitive gang member who turns over on his gang. And, because they kind of rough up my mother on the show. And somebody calls me and says, wow, this young hot director really saw you on the show. He really wants you for this movie. I'm like, I'm done with gang members. I'm done. I'm not doing it anymore. I saw what was ravaging through Hollywood and LA, the LA basin. I'm not doing any more gang members. Yeah, but there's this really great. Just read the script. I read the script. It's like it's okay. Dad getting out of prison. Blah blah blah. The show turned out to be, and I turned it down. It turned out to be Boys in the Hood.
Wow.
Right? I tell this story a lot, but I don't look back on that at all. Because like one of my mantras is, "What is meant for me will be for me."
Mm-hmm.
And that was meant for Cuba Gooding, right? That role, or Ice Cube, or the other brother. I can't think of his name right now. I know he's popular. And Larry Fishburne. Like those brothers rocked it in that, but it was not something that I at all wanted to represent or promote. Right? I did it, and I know that stuff was still ravaging through Hollywood. I do believe if you're a character actor, you need to switch it up.
Mm.
You can do Goodfellas how many times? I love Robert De Niro. The pattern part of my acting career on De Niro because I never wanted to be the same person twice ever. And I wasn't going to reprise, a gang member or gang culture because it was going to make somebody else a lot of money.
Wow. I mean, the experiences that you're able to casually toss around are just amazing to me. I can think of few movies that are iconic in the Black
Yeah.
community as
Yep.
Boys in the Hood, Different
Yep.
World, Glory. I
Yep.
mean, these are not small Plan B, B level movies. These are iconic.
and I have to tell you, Galen, I just was like, do I really want, is this my reason for existing? Is this why God put me in the world? Like, is this my why?
Mm,
To look at my pictures, to negotiate my contract, to make as much money as I can possibly make, to be as successful as I can? Or is it going to be being in the trenches? I love focusing on somebody else and making them feel like they have worth and that they matter. That's my job.
I love it. I love it. So now, again, you're going into another area. I have said quite a bit that I believe that everyone is designed to be the greatest in the world at something. And therefore, your life's mission should be to find your thing so that
Yeah.
you can get on with becoming the greatest in the world. And by greatest, I don't know that I necessarily mean I'm ranked better than anyone else, although that could be part of it. I think what I mean is knowing within your heart that you've played all your cards and you've become the best you possibly could be. No one else has outworked you in becoming what you were put on this planet to do. How does that fit into what you just shared? This idea of, was that what you were designed to be the greatest in the world at doing? And did you have this burning passion to forsake all other things, to cut off all other things in pursuit of being the greatest actor on the planet?
That was what I wanted to do. But again, the self focus was really, really difficult. In terms of education, it's easier to generate like that power of perspective and clarity about what it is that you're doing. When you're acting, it's like, okay, I want to do this role. I want to write the script. I want to do, whatever it is in order to show my brilliance, right? That seems to me to be a little self-referential, and people that sometimes, even great jazz musicians that are self-referential, tend to be a little stagnant and boring, or you want them to play their greatest hits, or there was a time when TV actors, once they were done with that role, they were done, right? And it's not too far fetched right now to say, look at the stars of Friends, look at some of the other stars of the bigger shows that have come out, even some of my two T's on the Cosby Show. Yeah, they've been working, and that's really great. But people remember and have locked them in as, Theo or whatever,
Yeah.
right? I love Malcolm, and he has done amazing stuff. He is a talented musician. He's doing what he wants to do in the world, which is really, really good. Probably, if you had asked him when he was 12 or 8 years old, you want to be acting for the rest of your life and doing only that, he probably would have said no, right? But in my estimation, the power is teaching people how to fish, right? As opposed to providing them one opportunity, right? Here's the fish, eat that, and it's gone.
Right.
Like, so our job really as educators is to replicate in others, as you talked about processes, that level 4, so that other people can be really brilliant and great at what they do too.
Wow. Hey, one of the things that, another author that I have really become fond of is Marcus Buckingham. And
Mm-hmm.
he really kind of
Yeah.
comes out of the whole Gallup strengths, live your best life by doing
Yep.
what you enjoy.
Yep.
One of the things that he has said, and I'd love to get your thoughts as to how you're doing this with your students. He says many of us feel stress and we get overwhelmed not because we're taking on too much, but because we're not doing enough of those things that strengthen us. How do you encourage your students to, yeah, there are things that you have to do,
Yeah.
right? Any of us can do those things that we have to do to put food on the table. But how do you encourage your students to always make time to do those things that strengthen them and that give them energy? And I'm asking for a selfish reason because my daughter
Mm-hmm.
is, she is at Spelman College.
Yep.
She's a biochemistry major. She's
Wow.
got a passion for science. She's always been math oriented,
Right.
but she has an amazing natural ability for art and for
Mm-hmm.
drawing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really hoping her, yeah, biochemistry, yeah, go do that science thing, do the STEM thing, makes a lot of sense. But make sure that you don't chase after that by neglecting the space for art, if that's
Right.
what gives you strength? How do you encourage your students to always carve out space for doing those things that give them energy?
Well, I think in our model, we've designed this model to be whether, we are a very highly rated, and we're not a ski academy, but we are the highest rated USSA FIS sort of ski school in our region. There are many because we're in sort of ski world, but we have our own ski hill, so kids can go over to the hill and downhill race, or they can go over the hill and just and play and have fun, right? The thing that we try to do, whether it's in the theater or it's the music studio or it is whitewater rafting or mountain biking, we're getting them out, testing themselves to their fullest, or contemplating themselves to their fullest. There's a great book called The Artist Way, very practical advice right here for your daughter. And it would be once a week, take herself out on an artist date. For her, selfishly, it could be like going to, like a craft studio and just buying some fabric or buying a new paintbrush or new paints. And then the next week, maybe go to a nice lake and have her just paint a portrait, right? But once a week to do something practical that fills her up, fills her soul. The other thing that came out of the artist's way too are morning pages. So first thing you wake up, 30 minutes, dump everything out of your head onto the page. That centers you for the day. It's almost like mindful meditation. So morning pages. This is Julia Cameron, a very famous author, used to be married to Martin Scorsese. But those are the two things she would recommend: morning pages and artist dates.
Wow. So you've talked a lot about your focus on education,
Yep.
the Proctor School. I would love for you to just share more about how did you choose the Proctor School? What was it about their mission? What was it? What is it about what they're doing that made you say, "This is the next step on on my journey. This is where I need to be to continue this thing that I was put on this planet to do"?
Well, when I was leaving in the middle of my tenure in St. Louis, it was pretty fraught because we were right in the middle of a very contentious election. There were issues that happened at the school. 5 young women had to leave the school because of some intense bullying, use of the N word. And what I noticed in that community is that the entire community seized up. Like people were like, I can't say that word. I can't do. And then this is right after the election of the last president of the United States. There was this emboldened, well, we can say whatever we want to say here. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on in this town that people are emboldened in some ways? So I went on my own new journey because I was planning to stay there for a while. The head of the school job came open there just because the last head was sort of, she left on her own, but under some fire from the community. And successful enough where she could go out on her own terms, and she did. And I applied for the head of that school and 18, maybe 22 other schools, and I didn't get it. Didn't get it. No, not a whole lot of people knew that I applied for it, and probably was not the right fit for that particular school in St. Louis. But what those, I wouldn't call them failures because they were opportunities for me to learn how authentic I was within the process
Mm.
of interviewing. And what I learned was stay true to my values. And I said this in my interview, like, I want to get kids out. Every kid should have an opportunity to go off campus. They should be able to do something. They should be learning something that inspires them. And boom, in many ways, I was putting that energy out into the world to find the school that I'm at. Every school that I have been in, I've tried to make into the school that I'm currently now the head of the school. And so when the match came up, it was on my dashboard, which I've created with my own executive coach. It was blinking hot. Whereas the other school was like, yeah, love connection, love those school, love those community, love a lot of people there, but it was not something that was blinking hot. I really searched within myself that if I wanted to really change myself and even the face of education eventually, I was going to have to put myself out there in a way where I wasn't successful. And it wasn't successful 22 times before I got this particular job.
Wow. You really, I've said this a couple of times, you really have impressed me as someone who has really pressed the boundaries of trying to figure out who you could be. And you've succeeded in so many different areas. I would love for you to leave my listeners with just some leadership advice on how to be more effective as leaders. But I want to share with you another quote. My listeners know I'm just annoyingly, fanatically a fan of quotes, but this one really does come to mind. This is my favorite quote, and this is by James Michener. And he says, "The master in the art of living makes little distinction between his work and his play, his labor and his leisure, his mind and his body, his education and his recreation, his love and his religion. He hardly knows which is which. He simply pursues his vision of excellence at whatever he does, leaving others to decide whether he's working or playing. To him, he's always doing both." As I contemplate that, I keep thinking of, wow, is Brian Thomas, are you an actor? Are you a stage actor? Are you an educator? Are you a teacher? You just seem to be whatever you're in, you're that fully. What's your reaction to that? And how would you encourage leaders or others to pursue all elements of their life that they could pursue?
I think the most important thing is to certainly to treat work and play as parts of a continuum. Because if you're not playful at work or workful at play, sometimes there is not any sort of forward movement in either area. Like I play, and I would say at a pretty high level, men's baseball, and have been playing for the last 30 years. Did not play in college, did not play in high school, topped out at Babe Ruth, wasn't good enough to make my high school team. But Saturday, I played the best game I ever played, followed by probably one of the worst games I've ever played. But it doesn't matter to me because I'm playing and I'm working and I'm getting better at my craft. For the entire season, hit over close to 450, right? Which is unheard of, right? And what I would say is that I treat my job, my work as an educator, much in the same way. I'm constantly reading, constantly improving myself, but more than that, constantly meeting people, right? Who will push my thinking, who will make my thinking evolve, the opposite of the confirmation bias person, right? I'm constantly and I have biases, right? I like, oh, that's a person I should know exactly by the way they look, the way they dress, that they're like this, and then I get past my timidity and I meet them and they're something completely different, right? Or they're exactly what I thought they were. But my estimation, really not settling for the easy answer is really important. My life theme is this, and it came when I was working in St. Louis, and I thought really deeply about the relationships I had. So it's relational based, it's affective connections, that's relationships and connecting, and compassion. We can do almost anything together, be called, be great. Like that's the essence of who I am as a person. I'm constantly thinking about it. How can we leverage what we do together in this common pursuit called life? How can I make you better? How can you make me better? By just really being compassionate with each other, really being vulnerable with each other. That's sort of what I'm about. That's sort of the perfection of life, which is really imperfect, and trying our hardest, not just even the work and the play being in the same thing, but treating relationships like when somebody's speaking to me, they have to know that nobody else in the world exists. They have to know that, right? So, and that upfronting of a relationship is what I'm trying to model. I can't demand that other people do what I do, but I can model it, right? And if I can say, you in front of me, you have my undivided attention. This is my intention, is to be fully present in your presence.
Wow. This has been fantastic. And if you got a few more minutes, I got to bring you to the VIP room, man. And my
Oh, I'm
VIPs,
coming.
my VIPs have got to hear more of this. But thank you so much for all you have done in my life personally, and in creating the organization, being that soft voice for my daughter to latch on to. Because I am absolutely doing this for my daughter. I'm absolutely doing everything that I'm doing for her to stand on shoulders that will allow her to reach places that I have no idea that is coming her way. So thank you so much for what you've done in her life and what you're doing in the lives of so many other future leaders. And with that, raise your Proctor bottle.
Okay, here we go.
Cheers on the other side. Cheers.
Cheers.
Hey, it's not too late. Hit that subscribe button so you're sure to catch the next episode. If you're really enjoying the vibe, leave us a review or become a VIP for guest and show exclusives. Cheers.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.